So I've written 7 novels for Avon, starting in 2021, when the first one got published. The 8th one, The Alpine Retreat, is out next year, hopefully, unless the edits come back and they're like, write a different book. So I'm going to talk about 2 books tonight, one as me, Sarah Goodwin, and one as Amy Cunningham, and read a little extract from both, if that's okay. And if it's not okay, you can't spit now. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Private Jet. That was the most recent one to come out with Avon, and that was in February of this year. My novels with Avon all have a really similar tone to them, which is I get a group of people together, and some of them are nice people, and some of them are not nice people, and then I do horrible things to them, and then they escape. This was probably one of the worst ones for that, because after I'd written it and sent it to my agent, she cornered me at a party and asked if I was mentally okay. You'll have to judge on that once you hear the extract. So The Private Jet is about a private jet. It belongs to Lila Wilde, who's the daughter of a rock star and an influencer. So she knows nothing about the real world. She invites a load of people from a nightclub in Thailand to celebrate her engagement at her father's estate. They go on the jet crashes in the jungle, and then bad things happen to everybody, and people have to eat snake eggs and monkeys and other things that are not very nice. So no one in this book is having a good time, but I hope you will as a reader, and I'm going to read you a little extract of the book right from before the plane crash, so we get to meet Lila and her guests. John, the pilot, as well as the 2 flight attendants, Janet and Stefan, in their red uniforms, were waiting by the boarding stairs. Still riding a wave of excitement, I led the group over and beamed at all 3 of them as I ushered everyone on board. Even as foggy as I was with cocktails, I could tell John wasn't happy to be there. I had to fight not to roll my eyes at him. For what he got paid, he should have been kissing my feet and carrying me up the stairs personally. On board, my guests exclaimed over the spacious passenger area with its cream leather swivel seats and the bar at the back. I noticed that the usual food selection, caviar, charcuterie, fresh fruit, was missing, but then again it had been a bit short notice. I could survive without melon balls and croustards. At least the bar had the usual snacks if anyone was hungry. Miss Wilde, will you be requiring a tea and coffee service during the flight? Janet asked, appearing at my elbow like a shadow, her red lipstick perfectly applied despite the hour. John could stand to learn a lot from Janet, I thought. She wasn't glaring and bitching because she'd have to wake up and get ready for work, and she had a full face of makeup on, and her hair was curled. I'm sure we'll be fine with just bar service, thank you. I threw myself into a chair and beckoned Bryce to join me. Nice plane, Fletcher said, eyes moving over everything as if he were inventorying it for auction, but it cost your dad a fortune to run. Cheaper than paying for all the extra seats you'd need for security on a commercial flight, I said, a response I'd heard Dad give on more than one occasion. Janet came round with a glass of Cristal, while John droned out his announcement that we were about to take off, seatbelts on, no smoking, no phones, blah blah blah, as if we'd never been on a plane before. I swear he was only doing it to be annoying. I sat back and relaxed with my drink in hand as the plane rushed down the runway and launched into the air. The swooping sensation of takeoff in my belly only added to my excitement. Soon we'd be setting down on the private airstrip at the house. It was a bit of a trek up to the actual compound, but there was a fenced-in road and a garage full of ATVs and SUVs. We'd probably be able to drive up there, providing we were reasonably stable when we landed. Not that it mattered on the straight road anyway. As soon as we reached altitude, everyone was up again, and I put music on and shimmied to the crowd. I nearly walked right into the back of a laughing Australian woman in a beaded dress, the overpowering smell of cheap body spray rising from her in a vanilla and alcohol cloud. Sorry, I said, sidestepping her with a wrinkled nose before straddling Bryce's lap to take a selfie of my ring. I'd have to post them later once we arrived at the house. Dad was going to be happy too once I told him. It'd be good press for him. The only person who wasn't ecstatic about the engagement was me. I still felt like I was going through the motions as far as my excitement was concerned. The momentum of the dance floor had carried me this far, but now we were stuck on the plane, I felt myself starting to flag a little. Maybe Bryce was right and I did need to pop a pill or two to make sure I stayed on top form. The plane jerked then, just once, like we hit a speed bump. I laughed automatically, it was just startled out of me, like we were on a ride at Disney World or something. And then we bumped again, and my stomach contracted. I looked at Bryce and saw my own fear reflected back at me. What the hell was that? Everyone had gone suddenly quiet, intense. The whooping and laughter turned to mutters and hushed voices. Another lurch of people gasping, and one girl yelped in fright. The chime of the announcement system made me jump. Just skirting a storm here. If everyone could take their seats and buckle up for a few minutes, that would be much appreciated. John's voice was flat and professional, and my muscles unclenched. Just a bit of turbulence. It was nothing he hadn't seen before. Sorry, everyone, I called out. Grab a seat for a few minutes, okay? There was some awkward laughter, and I saw everyone sag slightly in relief. They found their ways to seats, and I saw the Australian woman nudge the shy girl and say something that made her smile. There was another small bump, and a few people giggled, like we were back on that roller coaster and everything was fine. Everything was fine. We'd be landing soon, and I could have a drink and relax, and try to get past the complete letdown of the proposal. A storm, Bryce said. Is that a problem? Yeah, it's probably just... But I never got to finish that empty reassurance. The plane pitched downwards, suddenly nosediving. The force and speed of it felt like it would propel my stomach up through my chest. I screamed, clinging to Bryce, and his fingers bit into my legs. Around us, bottles and glasses flew upwards and smashed against the ceiling. Shards rained down, and the lights strobed. I heard the chime of the announcement system again, but couldn't make out what words John was shouting. Then suddenly I wasn't on Bryce's lap anymore. I was torn away by the force of our descent. I fell sideways and tried to catch myself on seats and squirming, panicking people. Everyone was screaming, being thrown from their seats and hitting the floor, walls and ceiling. A shriek tore out of me. I thought I heard Bryce yelling my name in the chaos, and then my head collided with something hard, wrenching consciousness from my grasp. And that's the nicest thing that happens to her for a while. But you'll have to find out about that later. So the second book I'm talking about is my debut with Trans World as Amy Cunningham. It's actually out on the 8th of May, which I'm now just realising is the anniversary the day, and you'll all be here then, so that's good. So it's less about survival and people scrabbling around in the wilderness and eating bugs and things, and it's more about sort of glitzy parties and murder mysteries. So it's a bit sort of Knives Out, bit Poirot. The main character is called Amelia, and she's a successful barrister, and she has a falling out with her younger sister Rose, who she's basically raised. And Rose doesn't speak to her for a few months. She's trying to make up with her. And eventually she goes to her house to try and talk things out, and she's gone missing. But there's an invitation there to a party being thrown by an elusive billionaire in Norway. And Rose was invited to it, and then apparently never came home. So Amelia changed herself and her entire life. She becomes the trophy girlfriend of the billionaire's cousin, and she gets an invite to the party to try and find her sister. So this is an extract from the point at which Amelia meets Lawrence Foley, the billionaire, and he's just offered her quite a lot of money to break up with his cousin because he thinks she's a gold digger. That wasn't funny, I say stiffly. You can't just try and buy people off like that. I'm sorry, it just seemed necessary given how fond Ford has grown of you, and so quickly too. I take a seat beside him. He helps me down with one hand, then offers me a glass of cold champagne. Please forgive me, I sometimes take my role too far, but I would do anything to protect my family. Which, from the way Ford has spoken of you, may include you before too long. This wasn't what I was expecting. I'd imagined the rich and notorious Lawrence Foley to be grand and imposing, a titan of industry with no time for fools, and an ego the size of his estate. There's something non-threatening about him now, as if his steely, impossibly beautiful exterior was just a show, and beneath it he's a charmer who's out of place at his own party. If it's an act, it's a good one, and my stomach tightens as I realise it's just the kind of act that would have worked on Rose. Like me, she'd have found him charming and romantic. Was this how he lured her in? I hold a glass of champagne, but don't dare take a sip. I saw your fiancée, Cecile. She's very beautiful, I say inanely, still playing the part of the nervous girlfriend. She is, isn't she? I sometimes wonder what on earth I've done to deserve her. It was probably something in a past life. Lawrence smiles slightly. She's one of the only people who don't just tell me what I want to hear. One of my oldest friends. Are you planning to have the wedding here, I asked, slightly thrown by his response and how self-deprecating it was. Most likely. Cecile likes the estate. I expect it'll all happen very soon. Lots of history between our families, and a lot of promises. Time to push a little. You've got a history yourself, I hear. Lawrence laughs politely. I'm not unfamiliar with the gossip about myself. James takes great pleasure in keeping me informed. What did you happen to hear about me? His tone is still light, but there's a sharpness to it now. He tends to look at me if he's seeing me in a new light. The hair on the back of my arm stands on end in the cool night air. My skin crawls with the fear of being found out. I suppose most of it's just magazine filler, I say with a shrug. That stuff about you grabbing the wheel from your driver. And I heard from one of the other guests that someone at one of these parties got attacked a few years ago. A waitress. That must have been awful. He's still watching me, eyes sharp and unblinking. Miss Knox, I heard you were a professional trainer. You have truly missed your calling as a police sergeant, or a journalist perhaps. Sorry to say that the rumours about me are mostly made up by money-hungry strangers. I noticed that he's made no attempt to address the rumours. Perhaps he hasn't got any excuses. I can't tell. In fact, as the conversation continues, I'm having a hard time marrying the idea of Lawrence that I've formed over the past year with the man sitting beside me sipping champagne with his feet in the water. He's certainly lying, or at least not telling the complete truth, but I have no idea why. You're not what I pictured, Lawrence says, interrupting my train of thought. Oh, sounds very complimentary, I say, injecting just a tang of acid into my words. Oh, it is very. James took you for a standard piece of iron candy, though the term he used was not quite so polite. And he's a suspicious type. That's why he's such a good accountant. Tom calls you sweet and incredibly kind. That's not you either, is it? I swallow, speechless, as for once I have no idea what to say or what to do. Lawrence gets to his feet, leaving the champagne bottle on the deck beside me. You and Ford must join the rest of the close family on my yacht tomorrow. I expect you'll find it most interesting, seeing us all together as one big happy family. As much as the prospect fits into my plans to get closer to Lawrence, I keep my cards close to my chest. I'll ask Ford. You'll be there, Lawrence says, not angrily, but in a tone that leaves no room for dissent. Family is the most important thing, after all. Don't forget that. Good night, Amelia. With that, Lawrence strides away over the sand, his black suit quickly swallowed by the darkness. Does he know why I'm here? Is he baiting me, or am I just in too deep to see clearly? The thoughts trouble me as I pick my way back to the party, unsteady on the sand. Not much has changed in my absence. Everyone is still drinking and dancing. Yet as I work my way through the crowd, I'm more aware than ever of how the other guests stop talking and look my way as I pass, as if I'm not really a guest, so much as a tame animal that has been allowed to roam amongst them. I can feel eyes on me as I accept a glass of champagne and try to find a suitable spot to stand, searching for Ford. I'm sipping my drink, trying to make it last, when a hush goes over the crowd that has nothing to do with me, a wave of quietness that passes over the guests like a spell. I look on in confusion as they turn towards the manor, as if on some signal that I can't hear, and when I follow their gazes, I freeze. My grip tightens automatically on my champagne flute. There's a figure at an open sash window on the second floor. The man, because it is a man, I can tell from his suit trousers, dark against the white stone, has his legs dangling out and over the ledge. Someone, possibly a staff member, must move one of the spotlights because suddenly the figure is lit up clear as day. It's Zack Bakshi, squinting and shielding his eyes from the bright light. The silence has dissolved into a spring, some panicky, some clearly intrigued, some entertained. Do they think this is part of a show? I don't think it is. My skin is crawling with unease. Something about the crowd seems strange. It takes me a moment to realise that it's the absence of phones being held up or flashes going off. Cameras weren't banned. I know everyone will be recording, wanting to catch whatever happens next on tape, even if it's grotesque, especially then. Zack! A jump as Ingrid's voice flies from the crowd, sharp with anxiety. What are you doing? Zack looks down at us as if he's not really seeing the crowd below. His expression is so dazed that I'm not even sure he's aware of where he is or what he's doing. He leans forward, swaying on the ledge, and the crowd gasps as one. A wave of tension ripples through the people around me as they realise what's happening. They're looking at their expectant faces. I'm not sure they're hoping for a good outcome. Zack, Ingrid says again. This time I spot her in the crowd looking up. Her face is a mask of horror, her eyes wide, and she screams. The crowd sucks in air all at once. I see a flash of movement. Everyone takes half a breath in. Then I hear a noise like nothing I've ever heard before, or want to hear again. The crunch of a body hitting flagstones from 2 manor house stories up. Bones breaking, a skull shattering. Slowly, feeling like I'm trapped in a nightmare, I approach the gaggle of people on the patio. Ingrid is wailing and I can see blood smeared over her clothes, already soaking into the stones, and none of the staff seem to know what to do. One calls for a tablecloth, and more try to pull Ingrid away. A waiter, his face grey with shock, feels for a pulse, even though Zack's whole face is caved in. Finally, I found myself standing close enough that I could smell the alcohol wafting from his body. Whiskey or scotch, I'm fairly sure. Was that what had him reeling, hanging out of a window for air without seeming to know what he was doing? Or was there more to it? I came to the Foley estate to find my missing sister, but in doing so, I've just made myself witness to what might be a murder. We'll have to read it to see if she was right.